Welcome everybody. This is the WA Wines to the World information and Q&A on our newly launched program for 23-24 financial year. I'm the program manager, Liz Mencel, for those that I haven't met me. If you've got any questions at all as we go along today, please, this is designed as an interactive session. There's a fair amount of stuff to get through. So I'll try and work through our various activations that we have going on this year via our website so that you know how to access those resources after this session. So for those of you who've not yet been to our website, the address is shown there, wineexportal.info. Everything is fairly accessible. There's one password protected menu item, which is the WA producers only section. And the password for that section is global growth with 2 capital G's. So it's one word, global growth, 2 capital G's. If you ever forget that and you're receiving our regular EDM newsletters, you will see on the bottom of that EDM that there is also the password given there. So the homepage, just a reminder, it just gives you a broad outline regarding the program intent, how you can join the program. So for those of you who haven't already filled out the annual registration survey, we'd really appreciate if you could do that, because it just feeds us the information that we need on your company and where you would like to plug into this program. It also makes sure that you and any of your nominated company contacts do receive our mailing, our regular newsletter. We also have a section here until you're actually receiving the newsletter. You can actually always review the past 6 EDM newsletters that have gone out to see what is active. So if you think you've missed one, you can always go there. So I'll get straight into it because we have just entered and updated all of our information for the new financial year. So we go into the WA producers only section. The other menu items are also full of useful information. So we also have a section here on any info sessions which we're about to give, and any downloadable media and assets are also available via here. But today we're going into the producers only section. Just click through if you've already entered that password. So at the top of the producers only webpage, we always have listed our current program opportunities. These are also at the bottom of every one of our EDMs that goes out. So you've got a couple of sources of info that you can go to if you're ever thinking, wow, what's current? I may not have received the latest information for whatever reason, or you're unsure. Everything that has some sort of a deadline for registration is listed here in date order at the top. And we also try and turn over a bit of a resource of the month on a regular basis, hopefully monthly. So that's at the top of the page, and then you move down straight into the activations and program tools. Before I go through all of the markets and the activities or activations that we have planned for the new year, I just want to point out also that the activations calendar is another really good source of information, and that shows you in a simple one-page view. You can see there all of our activations via market or via region. So if you want to download that and have a look at what's coming up across the whole year, that's an easy one-page view for that. And for those of you who are new exporters or existing exporters, you can easily see whether each of those activations is relevant to you. So alongside the name of each activation is whether it is designed to target new or existing exporters. So I'll go back to the activations page now, and we'll just work through all of the regions. So starting with global, these are activations that cover all markets or a number of markets. So for anything that doesn't neatly slot into the other market classifications, we put them into global. So don't forget, if you're looking for something like Vinexpo, for example, in Asia, you might think immediately, oh, I'll go to Asia. But we actually consider that a global activation because it's a trade show that goes across Asia and the Pacific and attracts a broad range of people. So just keep that in mind, that some of these things are also under global. So the way the website is structured is we've got a sort of a short view of everything, so you can see very easily. Usually there's only 1 or 2 lines of info, and you can easily see out of view how many global or UK or US or Asian activations we have going. There's a brief description of each, and if you're interested, you can go in and find out more. So let's kick off with this one, which is our wine retail buyer tour. Now this relates to Margaret River and Great Southern only. So for those people here representing other regions, just forgive me as I go through. A couple of our activations are specifically targeted at our 2 largest export regions. But if there's interest in these, please let us know your thoughts, and we can also build such things in the next year, or try to for other regions. So I'll just kick off by talking about our wine retail buyer tour. That's happening in October. So what we do, just as a brief overview, is we go into the main page. Each page gives more detailed information and usually links to either a relevant Wine Australia website or more documents that we have. So for example, with the wine retail buyer tour, we also have an expression of interest flyer that was sent out that you can download. And then we list objectives, eligibility criteria, costs to get involved, usually if there is any, and timing. And then we have any sort of registration and deadline details. So that's the more detailed view. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the main page just so we can skim through each one of them. So with this one, just to say that we are organising a tour of up to 10 retail buyers from across UK and Asia. They will be coming into region in October from the 8th to the 14th. They will be kicking off their tour at the WA Good Food Guide Wine Awards night. So for those other regions, that's a chance to also connect with these people. I will be there as well, and you'll be welcome to come over and introduce yourselves. So they'll kick off with the Wine Awards night, as I mentioned. There is actually going to be a 2 masterclasses held in Perth for Margaret River and Great Southern on that Monday that they kick off their tour, and then they head straight down into region. And there's a whole range of activities, producer visits, trade showcase events, etc. So with this one, we will be sending out some details fairly soon, which explain where and when you can get involved with these particular activities. Great Southern has already jumped on top of this and has already started communicating with their members via their newsletter. And with Margaret River, we'll also be posting some opportunities where you can connect. So just keep a lookout through your association newsletters and through our own EDM newsletters on this one. There'll be details coming soon. Next year, we're just still formalising the dates, but it looks like it will be in May sometime. We'll be doing a similar tour targeting mainly Asian distributors. Now, these 2 tours are made possible because we have co-funding by the Development Commissions and Trade Start. So we also involve them, and they put out details through their networks as well. All right, the next one, which I want to alert everyone to, this is something that is open right now for registrations. ProVine 2024 is considered still to be the most influential global trade show for wine. It particularly is successful in targeting Northern Hemisphere buyers of New World wines. So there are some other shows popping up which people are talking about as well, like Wine Paris, And those ones we're keeping a close eye on. But for now, ProWine Germany is still considered to be the show to attend. So it tends to attract, as I say, the Northern Hemisphere buyers. We get, obviously being in Germany, we get a lot of European buyers. We get a lot of the big UK buyers, distributors and retailers coming over for this one. The monopoly buyers through the Nordic countries, the monopoly buyers in Canada, tend to come along on a regular basis. Large US distributors and retailers also come to this show. So expressions of interest are open now to take your own individual stands at this show. They're quite pricey. It's something that Wine Australia has been doing for a number of years, and they're heavily sought after. You can participate as an individual producer, or with our support, where we're getting involved is we are offering regional tables. Again, it's targeted primarily at Great Southern and Margaret River. We're looking to form regional tables for both those regions where you can share in the cost of a table and have some presence there. And also we are going to be funding some masterclasses. So we've just put out an expression of interest for that one, for the regional tables, to see if you're interested in coming along and participating. It's a much more affordable way of being there. I think a half table normally is around $10,000 through Wine Australia, and a full table at $15,000. So it's normally for sort of mid to larger size producers with this show. But with our investment in the regional tables, you can participate. It's $13.50 per SKU for a minimum of 2 SKUs, and we can have up to 14 SKUs on a regional table. So it does make things a lot more affordable. And that one, you have the opportunity of being there in person or having your wines represented by our regional representative. I'll move on to Vinexpo now. So Vinexpo is a little bit more inclusive. So we've got opportunities for all regions when it comes to this show. So this is one I will spend a little bit of time on. We've obviously just come back from Vinexpo Singapore 2023. Where we had a shared table again. It was a WA table, and we had a number of different regions participating and producers on that particular table. And that was particularly useful, I think, in terms of new to market players and having that affordable table presence where people could buy in and be there. And it was all about leads generation and helping people pick up new leads and follow those up. Vinexpo is now going to be moving to Hong Kong and moving between Singapore and Hong Kong in alternate years. So 2025 will be back in Singapore, 26 back in Hong Kong. The beauty of this is Vinexpo Asia is the show for wines in the Asia Pacific region. So it attracts a very wide audience from across Asia. Obviously, when it's held in Singapore, the focus is more skewed towards Southeast Asian visitors, and in Hong Kong, more Northeast Asian visitors. So it's really good that we can have it in the two places. With both of these trade shows, we participate as a rule with Wine Australia in their big stand, and we take a booth or a number of regional booths within their stand. So with Vinexpo Asia, again, in 2024, it's going to be held in May. The dates have been announced, 28th to the 30th of May. All the details are on our webpage if you follow it through. With ProWine, that one's in March, mid-March. So Vinexpo Asia, we will be, again, subsidising individual tables. We don't do that at ProWine. With ProWine, we only take the regional tables and the masterclasses, but with Vinexpo, we take it up a level. We also subsidise individual tables, plus we will be taking regional table and tables and masterclass, depending on the level of interest and the expressions of interest we see. So that one, I expect we will start having Wine Australia contact us September, October for initial expressions of interest. Just to say that, just quickly going down this next line, just so you know what's there, we also have what we call our grants for regions and producer groups, small projects. That has already gone through round 1, and we've had a number of submissions. We've approved 5 submissions, 2 producer groups and 3 regional submissions for projects. So we're going to be publicising those soon and talking about ways that people may want to get involved and engage with those particular projects. So look out for details in our EDM on that one as well, and also through WOWA and DPIRD. So that one, the submissions have closed, and as I say, that was relevant to groups or regional associations. Once you start seeing some information on that, again, your regional association is always the best way to continue to engage on any of the activations along with our ADM. So make sure you're seeing both. And the regional associations that are here today, thanks for being here. I'll make sure that anything that's relevant to your regions, we'll always allow you to feed into our EDM information, and any other information that's relevant specifically to a region I'll send through to you. I just want to quickly touch on these other 3 areas here, because these were things from last year. So many of you are already aware, but we do have a number of educational and media assets which are downloadable. We'll continue to update those this year. And the New Voices Stories is our content development around WA unique stories and voices. Have a look on there to see how many wineries and regions and stories are represented there, but we always try and feed those stories out through various publications and also tie them into our activations wherever possible. And last but not least, the global consumer data. We've always got a number of reports downloadable from there on individual markets. We are soon to release a report, which is a little bit overdue, on e-commerce across all of our target markets. So keep a lookout for that one as well. Does anyone, before I go to the next market overview, does anyone have any questions regarding any of those global activations? Okay, so I'll move on. All right, so now we're looking at UK and Europe. All right, we've just got the 4 here this year that relate specifically to the UK and Europe. The first 2 we have been running now, they're into their 3rd year. So most of you will have already seen these pop up before. And just to say that the submissions have now closed, they closed off for these at the end of June. So they're no longer running. If we find that we have some funds available towards the second part of the year, we may open up these programs again, but for now they are closed. So just quickly, our retail promotion support program is about supporting individual producers' own nominated retail promotions that they seek to engage in, and we fund them to the tune of 40% for eligible spend. So these 2 programs are both designed to support with grant funding, if you like, for individual producers that have basically met the criteria for those particular promotions. The second one is about incentivising distributors' sales teams. So things like cash incentives, gift card incentives, trip competitions, things like that. If producers want to engage with their distributors in that way, then we will fund those to the tune of 30%. So that's those. I want to focus in this presentation on things that are coming up and things that are open now that people can actively engage with. So I'm moving straight on. The next one, which will come out next week in an EDM, is the Wine Australia Explore program for the Nordics. So Wine Australia run a very successful program called Explore. Last year they concentrated on the UK and Canadian markets. Essentially, it's a series of seminars where they get together really engaging speakers that look after those markets from trade, so retailers, restaurateurs, monopoly buyers in the case of Canada and the Nordics. And it's all about getting you export ready for that particular market, getting you into the headspace of the buyers and what they're looking for. You know, that is a really big part of it. But Wine Australia also give you a really good overview of the market in terms of what the expectations are, what the structure of the market is, how you can price your product for that market, and different learnings on how to best pitch your product for best results in that market. And then, of course, you hear from the players in the market. There's also some commercial opportunities that are usually associated with these programs, where Wine Australia will actively send out lists of their participating players in the Explore program to say, hey, these are some new to market players seeking distribution in your markets. Here's an overview, here's a portfolio of what we're presenting from Australia. So there is a little bit of a commercial connect opportunity. It's not a direct sort of buyer connect opportunity, but that is included in there at the conclusion of the program usually. So keep a lookout for the Nordics program. That one's going to cost $750 normally. We subsidise half of that cost. So you'll only be charged half of the cost to participate. The next one that is actually current right now and open for expressions of interest until the end of the month is the UK Press Kit. So we've opened that up. Actually, this is one that we're hoping will encourage all regions, particularly some of the smaller regions, and more unique. You know, we want to get out there some unique stories around regions, around varieties, and or around wine styles. So it's a very inclusive one, this one. We've put it out there so that people can express their interest, and whatever comes back in terms of submissions, we'll have a look at those. And hopefully we'll be able to build a coherent theme around 6 top wines. So from all the submissions, we will only award places to 6 wines. The idea with this is essentially we're sending out a very targeted press kit, 6 wines according to the theme that we choose, to engaged media. So what Wine Australia do with us on this one in London is they work with us on the theme. They work with us on building a press list of media that is going to be most engaged with that particular theme we've chosen, who's interested in writing up those varietals, regions, or wine styles. And then they will actually actively reach out to individual press and say, are you interested in receiving one of these kits and potentially writing up these wines? So we don't just needlessly send out the kits to the press. We know already that they're going to be interested and engaged in what our messaging is, and that goes out to 12 targeted press in the UK. So we've decided not to be prescriptive with this one and say this is for this region or that region or this group of varieties or styles. We just want to see what comes back from industry and what industry is interested in talking about. We'll pick a theme and then we'll announce the winners, not the winners, we'll announce the successful applicants and then construct the list accordingly. So that's one I imagine people may have some questions around. You can obviously go in to find out more, but please also ask me any questions as we go through today.
Liz, just a quick question. What
Yes.
happens if you can't, there's no link between any of the submissions? Like what would the theme be? Is that sort of, I imagine it could be quite tricky.
Yeah, what we don't want to do is go out with something that's too innocuous, and we don't want to just go out with the unique wines from WA unearthed. I mean, that is what we're using as our catch cry to get industry to participate, but that's not going to be the theme. So look, it could be anything. It depends on what really comes in, and we're hoping that a theme will emerge. What I'll do is I will also look at the submissions as we get close to the deadline date. So if we find, for example, that there's, 4 Chenin Blancs that have been submitted and we see a story there, we might contact some other Chenin Blanc producers and say, hey, do you have some distribution in the UK? If we see, some really cool wines coming through from some of the smaller regions, what we might do is say, okay, well, we've got, one here from Perth Hills and one here from Geograph and one from Swan Valley. We may go to some of those other regions and build, a smaller region theme and present that. Or we may indeed have, 4 or 5 wines that we can see from Geograph, and then we would reach out and to the association, say, hey, what other wines do we need in here to make this a theme? So I expect that a theme will emerge naturally on its own, but if it doesn't, we'll certainly guide that process and go in there and have a look and see what's in there. If you've got any ideas for themes as well, we're happy for regional associations or producer groups to collaborate and come to us with 6 wines. So we've said that in the outline, and we've set that up in the survey so you can do that. So if you want to be the master of your own destiny and say, hey, we would like to do, 6 really amazing Rieslings, all produced in different styles from across the Great Southern, here they are, then that's also a possibility. All right, so if you've got specific ideas, please let us know what they are. With all of these things, it really does depend on what the interest is that comes back from industry, and we want to try and nurture that. Good question, because normally we do approach quite differently, and we do have in mind a theme to start. This time we thought we'd put the opportunity out there. Okay, if there's no more questions on the UK programs for now, I'll move to North America. At this stage, it is the US specifically. Sometimes we have programs for Canada, but at the moment, it's all the US. So this is a good one, the Wine Australia US Market Entry Program. So you'll note that we are subsidising and supporting a number of Wine Australia programs. Essentially what we do with their program that comes out every year, we keep in close contact with Wine Australia, and we cherry pick out the programs that we feel are best and suit Western Australian producers and regions the most. So we certainly don't engage in all of their programs, but we do engage in what we consider to be the top ones and the most important ones. And this is one that we've had quite a bit of success with across a variety of regions and producers for the 3 years that we've been supporting this program. It allows new market entrants to go into the US. And it is, again, it's an expensive program, and that's why our subsidy is really important here. It costs $13,000 to participate as an individual exporter. So we subsidise half of that cost, making it really affordable, especially if you consider the cost of visiting the US anyway. For one trip, you'd be paying more than $10,000 typically if you're going over for a couple of weeks. So it's really good value. And it's a 12-month ongoing mentored program. So it's it is good value. Producers get to have one-on-ones and group discussions with Damon Musha, who runs the program, and he helps them with their pricing, their brand strategy, their brand pitch, understanding routes to market that work for their particular brands, and trying to guide brands on whether they should take a regional approach or a national approach. And really connecting them with a number of buyer opportunities. Sometimes there's also buyer groups that come out to Australia, and they do encourage people to visit the market and engage with them as well. So the program has, again, closed already for this year. But if you're interested for next year, please get in contact with us early. Usually they start talking to us around February, March in terms of getting their submissions for the following year. So we had 7 applicants in year 1. I think it was 3 or 4 in year 2. This year we've only got 2 applicants. I suspect we got quite a few in that first year, but we are always looking to support this program. So let us know if you have an interest. And for those who are already in the program, good luck with that. It's something that has produced some good results.
There's a quick question on that one. Would you only be eligible if you haven't exported to the US before?
No, it's for new market entrants and those that want to re-enter, or those that have tried and failed and want to do something differently. There's quite a few people that are using it as a re-entry platform. So, you know, things have obviously gone through waves in the US, and people have had success 10 years ago, and then they found it to be really difficult. And now they're coming back in, now that there's this sort of trend towards premiumization and some interesting growth in that area. So, yeah, by all means, feel free to ask any questions if you're interested, and you can use it as a re-entry tool. Or platform rather. The US Distributor Incentive Support Program, like our UK program, is about incentivising distributors' sales teams. This one is a little bit more prescriptive in terms of our guidelines. It's not quite as loose as the UK program, and that's mainly because of the way that the US is constructed and the regulatory environment is quite strict. And what we're trying to do here specifically is encourage new listings. So it's about rewarding distributors and their sales teams for achieving new listings of Western Australian wines. In a crowded portfolio, we want Western Australian wines to stand out, as, you know, there is this incentive, you know, go out and take these wines and sample them with your accounts. And we also incentivise on-premise accounts with by the glass depletion allowances as well. So that effectively allows the distributor to go in with a lower price for a by the glass listing, and we will support that price drop. It's called a depletion allowance. So that's something which is currently running, and submissions are closed for now. But again, if you see that coming up again in a later part of the year or even next year, we want you to know what that one's about. Breathtaking Margaret River is a campaign. It's a very targeted campaign specifically aimed at Margaret River producers that are that are in Texas and looking to engage in retail promotions, either with chain retailers or with individual independent retailers. And we offer a whole suite of support for those looking to engage in retail promotions. There's some point of sale material that's been produced by Wine Australia that we can tailor for your needs. We've got training materials. We will link you with in-store tasting service providers, and we will fund other eligible activities around the retail promotion to the tune of 40%. That one has technically closed, but we have got a couple of producers that are still getting us some information. So if anyone is still interested in that, now is the time to get back to me, because we will be actually closing it very, very soon. Right now, the registration link is still open, even though the date says the 31st of July. So if you're interested, you can enter some details there. And just quickly, the Texom tasting. This is, again, this is one that is, it's targeting those that have distribution in Texas, not because it's aiming at Texas sommeliers, because the Texom conference is a huge conference in Dallas every year that attracts sommeliers from all over the country. It's truly a national platform for sommeliers and on-premise. But to participate, you actually have to have your wine in the state. And we've got Wine Australia pouring regional selections of wines, and we're subsidising participation in that. That one is taking part in this month, actually. So registrations are already closed, unfortunately, but it is underway. Now, with the Asian programs, we have got a few programs that are still open and coming up. So I'll go into those. So they're going to be very relevant for most people. So the Asia on-off trade promotion support program, again, sorry for those that are new and looking for new opportunities, but that one actually just closed off. And we've literally just this week announced the successful applicants for funding under this program. So like the UK and the US programs that we run for individual producers that want to engage in their own retail promotions, this one does the same in Asia, but it also extends it beyond retail to on-trade as well. So we ran a similar program over the past 2 years in Singapore, and then we eventually expanded that out to Singapore and Malaysia. This year, we've expanded it out to all of Asia, and we've been heavily oversubscribed for this program. It was very, very popular amongst a whole range of producers, small and large, from all different regions across WA. A lot of programs were submitted for Singapore as well, for the on-trade in particular, because people have already engaged in previous years, some of them for off-trade, and are now moving on-trade. So we're still seeing a lot of submissions specifically for Singapore. Japan is another one that we had a lot of submissions for, but we also saw submissions for Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. So this one, with the amount of success we've had in terms of interest, there is no doubt in my mind that that one is likely to continue next year, or if we get some funds available in the second half of the program and have the ability to open it up again. So yeah, it's a very open and inclusive program in that we are targeting a number of markets and a whole range of producers, and there's no minimum size of promotions for you to get engaged in these programs either. That counts also for the UK and the US programs. There's no minimum spend. There are usually some maximum limits that we set, but that one's a really good program. Now, 2 more opportunities that are still coming up. The Tokyo Trade Tasting is a Wine Australia and Austrade-led event that happens now annually in Tokyo. Again, officially registrations have closed, but I do know that one Great Southern producer just signed up a couple of days ago. So if you were looking to engage, you may still be able to slip in. Wine Australia may not like me saying that. So let me know immediately if you have an interest in this one. For those that have already signed up, we had 14 Western Australian producers sign up for this one across a number of regions, mainly Margaret River, but also Great Southern and Swan Valley. That is taking place on September 23rd. And just to point out too, for those of you who are in on this call that are looking to participate in the Thailand mission, which is a lot of the communications is going out for this one via your regional associations for Great Southern and Margaret River. There's also communications that have gone out directly from the Development Commissions / Trade Start, who are project managing this one. If you're going to be participating in the Thailand mission in September, there's also another Singapore-based opportunity, which again, Trade Start / Development Commissions are organising the following Saturday. And then on the 23rd, which is the Monday in Tokyo, we have the Tokyo Trade Tasting. So that's just to let you know that if you're planning some travels around the Thailand mission and the Singapore event, and you want to then move on to Tokyo, that you can do that. With the Tokyo Trade Tasting, however, you do not need to be physically present if you do not have the funds or the schedule to do so. It is designed to be a showcase tasting where your distributor and your importer have their tables and represent all of their Australian brands rather, including the 14 West Australian participants. So you don't need to be there to participate in this one, but you can be. And if you're planning to be there in person, please let me know as soon as possible, because I'd like to let Rosemary in, who is the country manager for Wine Australia in Japan, know, as they'll be organising a number of events where they can get winemakers and producers involved. So with this one, the support that we're offering is subsidised places on tables. And also we're organising, we've secured 1 of 2 only masterclasses. That's going to be on Margaret River Chardonnay. And we also have places for 2 Great Southern wines at the banquet dinner for 60 trade. So that one is going out as an opportunity right now through the Great Southern Wine Producers Association. So if you're a Great Southern producer and you're looking to submit some wines for the banquet dinner, that is a good opportunity. Have a chat with Amanda Darling. The dinner will be essentially, I think, 4 courses and 2 wines will be presented per course. So you've got quite a captive audience of 60 targeted trade. The masterclass submissions have already closed for that one, so I won't go into too much detail, but we've got 6 Margaret River Chardonnays that are going to be showcased there. So that's the Tokyo Trade Tasting. The Seoul Trade Tasting has not yet been announced. This one is going to be most likely, I'm told, on the 20th, I think it's the 23rd of November, certainly late November, and the date should be announced very soon and confirmed. And all the details will come out on this one should you wish to participate. With the Tokyo Trade Tasting and the Seoul Trade Tasting, these are both Wine Australia / Austrade-led initiatives, which we get involved with, and we subsidise and we try to secure masterclasses, etc. These are for established players in market. So I'll just mention that. I should have mentioned that up front. They're not new to market activations. They're designed specifically for brands already in market. So the trade that attend know that they can buy these, and they're represented, as I said, by your importers / distributors via their tables. So you need that representation in market to be a part of it. I am told that Austrade is looking to do its new to market tasting in Tokyo again next year, but we're waiting on exact dates for that. Currently, we don't have any budget set aside to support that one, but that's not to say that we could find some, or we could encourage the WA Government Office in Tokyo to put some funding into that so that we still are able to subsidise involvement for new to market players. So we're always looking out for opportunity for new to market as well as established players in market to get their products out there. So that is the extent of the activations that we have lined up for this year. I'm going to stop sharing and get back to the video screen and just see if anyone has any questions. So please feel free to just unmute. I won't call on you because I can't view all of you at once. So I just ask you to call out if you wouldn't mind and let us know what your questions may be. I noticed that there's a couple of regional association representatives here today. So Jennifer and Preeti, have you got any questions in relation to where regions can sort of get involved or?
I think you've done a great job of explaining what the current and future opportunities might be. My only thought, there's not too many exporters in our region, so a couple of these, like the Nordic opportunity, might be relevant. We can go out and do a bit of a survey to see where people are looking to enter market or where they already are. But our voices, or the new voices component for the media coverage and things like that, is that mostly media driven, or is there a way of expressing interest in having a story told as part of that program?
So with that program, most of our investment in new content was actually done last year. So we identified, well, we actually put it out there and invited pitches from existing wine writers and wine tourism writers and new writers. And we actually had, quite a wide variety of submissions, if you like, or pitches. And then we decided, okay, this is going to fit with our program, our markets, and provide us with a broad selection of stories. And we actually commissioned those writers and paid those writers to develop those stories for us and build some content, some images, etc. So that's how we built that program. There was a couple of stories that we thought at the end of this process that were missing. One around Sauvignon Blanc that we wanted to tell for the state. And there was another one that was sort of on sustainability more broadly, in specifically Margaret River. So we did go out and kind of pitch that idea to a number of the writers that engaged in the program. We've got some funding this year to maybe do one more story, but it's really, our focus this year is on pushing those stories out. So we want to spend time going out to various publications and EDM platforms and apps. So last year we had some success with The Buyer in the UK, which is a major on-premise communications platform or publication. So they reach a lot of trade throughout the UK, and we had 5 stories published in that. This year we're planning to have a fairly active campaign in the US and try and target some US publications. But we also use these in connection with our activations. So where we have, we're trying to drive interest in a particular mission or inbound visit, we might, if there's a PR agency that's engaged and we want stories written around region, we'll also provide them with the content that we've created. If you've got an idea for a story, like I said, we do have budget for probably one more story this year. And if you've got an idea for a unique story that tells, something about Southern Forests and its producers, by all means, you feel free to pitch that to us. There is that opportunity for one more story, as I said. We may have budget in future years where we open it up and sort of revive that content and build some more.
Liz, it's Garrick here. Sorry.
Hi, Garrick. How you doing?
Hey, how you going?
Good.
Could I just ask a couple of quick questions? With regards to ProWine and WinExpo, I know you've explained that there's support on a regional table. If a producer decides to take, their own booth, is there any financial support to subsidise that hefty cost?
Not this year. No, we didn't do it last year either for ProWine. So it's just a matter of budget, Garrick, and deciding where our priorities are. We've decided to do the table subsidies for WinExpo. I guess the rationale for us doing that for WinExpo versus ProWine, apart from not having budget, is we feel that WinExpo is a more inclusive show for small, mid, and larger producers. And so we just want to want to open that up. Whereas we feel that, generally speaking, with ProWine, it's the larger producers that take part. And those that want to take their own individual tables can do so. If they find that too expensive as an option, then they can come on our shared table. And we are hoping to get, last year we put out a call for expressions of interest for a Great Southern and a Margaret River table. Unfortunately, we didn't get the uptake from industry for a Great Southern table last year, but we're hoping that we will this year. We did get a masterclass though for Great Southern and Margaret River both, and we got a regional table up there for Margaret River. So it really depends on what expressions of interest come back as to what we can do with those in terms of formulating those tables. We have some criteria that Wine Australia give us in terms of minimum SKUs, and we have to look at it from a cost basis as well. But sorry, we're not subsidising individual tables for ProWine, only for WinExpo.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Jennifer, just to your question of where the smaller regions can engage in the program as well, WinExpo is one of those shows that we found is good for producers from all regions on that shared table. So that is, as I said, slightly more inclusive and more affordable as a platform, and Asian markets tend to be those that some of the other regions outside of Margaret River are targeting. So that's a good one to consider. The UK press kit is another opportunity for smaller regions and new to market, well, not for new to market players. It is specifically for those already in the UK. Things for new to market players are identified as such on the program and on the calendar. But yeah, you've got the Nordics, Explore Nordics coming up. There's also the US program, if for producers that are looking to get into the US specifically. We are hoping to do some more capability development. We can't promise anything because it is budget based, and we have to look at getting grants for this one. But do let us know and communicate with me if you have an interest. We have had an interest from Blackwood Valley specifically, wanting to run a program for its program that Wine Australia ran a couple of years back, which is workshop style learning, how to build an export plan, how to price your wines, how to pitch your brand, kind of starting from scratch, an overview of getting people export ready. So as I say, we have had a specific expression of interest from Blackwood Valley for that kind of capability development, and we see that would be useful for all smaller for all smaller producers, really.
Yeah, we might touch base with them to to compare notes, but that sounds like it could be quite relevant. On the topic of BINExpo, I didn't note it down, but do producers have to be present at the expo?
No, they don't.
So I'm just looking at the dates of 28th to 30th.
Yeah, we will invite people to let us know if they're planning to be present or not. It's always better, obviously, if you have your product there, if you can be there in person to tell your brand story. Nothing is better than that. But if you want to participate by simply having wines on table and to have that opportunity, there will be a regional representative up there on the stand representing those wines. So you've got the two options based on, how much funds you can commit to it.
Not a problem. Thank you. I'm just looking at timing in relation to vintage. It tends to be a few producers still harvesting at that time, but they tend to be a bit fried by the end of vintage for any sort of
so that one's the end. That's the
mental
end of
bandwidth.
March. Yeah. I understood.
Liz Garrick again, if you don't mind, sorry. Just a quick question, apologies if I missed it, but on the global section for the wine retail buyer tour, which is Margaret River Great Southern, what sort of a cost estimate would that be? And also for the wine distributor, the tour for both of those?
So there haven't been any costs put out as yet. There's no single cost to participate in the tour. So what it will be is a number of activations across your region. And then you will be invited by the regional association to submit wines based on what that opportunity is. So I think this is something you'll have to discuss directly with Amanda Darling. But I think what's happening with the Great Southern is there's going to be a wine tasting, a winemaker tasting, and a new to market showcase event that's going to be held all together at Alkumi. And that's going to be, so it's the week of the 8th to the 14th of October. This is for the retail tour I'm talking. Okay. And that particular activation is going to be on the Thursday. So you might want to just earmark that date. She hasn't gone out, Amanda hasn't gone out yet, I believe, with a formal call for expressions of interest. She's just been talking to producers. I know she's been talking to Hunter, so he's a bit more across it. But there will be two sides to that. There will be, and Matthew Jukes is also, actually that's something that I didn't go through. I do apologise. I have actually missed 2 UK activations. I'm just going to go back in. And as I finish talking up, I'll just touch on these ones. I'm glad you asked that question. What I did with the UK is I showed you the top layer of the programs and didn't go further down, because there are some more new to market opportunities here. Here we go. So I just showed you these top 4. So Garrett, just finishing up on that, the Thursday, there's going to be a winemaker showcase tasting with Matthew Jukes and the retail buyers all together. And what's going to happen is the region is going to call for expressions of interest for the region's top wines to be put forward based on reviews, based on your sub-regions, so that there's a sub-regional kind of showcase that'll be presented, I believe, in a kind of masterclass format for those successful submissions. So that will be a kind of kick-off event for the buyers and for Matthew Jukes coming into region, and that will coincide on the same day. So quite a big event. And then following the tasting, the masterclass style tasting, there will be a new to market showcase. When I say new to market, depending on the wine buyers, as I mentioned, there's going to be wine buyers from the UK and a number of Asian markets. We've got so far Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan, but we're going to open that up to some other markets as well. We're still looking for a few more participants in the tour. But if you have got any wines that you want to put forward to those buyers, once we can actually tell you who the buyers are, then you can be a part of that new to market showcase as well. There will be a cost associated with that event and participating. It's purely a cost recovery, and there's also going to be a lunch involved. Okay. So when I say cost to participate, that one's going to be minimal. It will be a couple of $100 at most. And I think all of the other opportunities on the tour are largely going to be free of charge, unless there's some sort of ticketed component or a dinner involved.
Okay, no,
So-
thanks. I'm just trying to put a budget together for it, so I'll just put in some TBCs, but thank you.
Yep, so that's that one. So I just go back to this, and so we can finish on time as well. So Matthew Jukes is also, very importantly, is coming into Western Australia. So for those of you who may not be aware, Matthew Jukes is probably the leading Australian wine critic in the UK. He publishes his Australian Top 100 every year, so incredibly influential for Australian wines in the UK. And surprisingly and disappointingly has not been in Western Australia for about 15 years. So Wines of Western Australia felt it was critical for him to come back into the state, and had an opportunity to do so in connection with the WA Good Food Guide Wine Awards. He's coming in as the guest international judge for that. So when I mentioned that we're going to be at the WA Good Food Guide Wine Awards with our wine retail buyer group, Matthew Jukes will also be there at the same time. And then following that, we're going to bring him into region. He's going to be visiting and sometimes crossing over with the wine retail buyer group. He's going to be visiting Margaret River and Great Southern. There is going to be some other activities that he's doing in Perth as well. So again, if there's opportunities for your regions in terms of open events where there's an opportunity to submit your wines for masterclasses. So for example, in Margaret River, he has asked to attend the Cabernet masterclass that we're putting together for the wine retail buyer group as well. So there'll be an expression of interest put out around that. There'll be a Chardonnay event also. And then in the Great Southern, as I've already mentioned, the region will be communicating about that very shortly with that showcase event. So that's Matthew Jukes. This is one, Jennifer and others, which are interested in the new to market opportunities for their regions. The Australian Trade Tasting in London is held annually and has been running for 30 years and is considered to be the most important tasting of Australian wines in Europe. So it gets, a really large number of UK trade, even some European trade from the continent comes in for this. But it's essentially about targeting distributors and other trade buyers, so retailers, SOMs, educators, etc. Now, typically, those that are already established and in market in the UK will participate with their distributors on a table, so they already have the benefit of those shared costs. What we have done is we've identified this as a great opportunity for new to market players. We know there's a number of producers wanting to get it into the UK. And so we're approaching it from a new to market play. And we're saying that if anyone wants to take a table and they're a new to market player, we will subsidise the cost of that. So there's a 25% subsidy, which all helps. And then there is also an opportunity just to submit wines on a free pour table for new to market players as well. That's just $100 per SKU, and you can have up to 2 SKUs, and we'll fund half of that. So that's a very inexpensive way for smaller guys to have their wines available and to try and get some sort of feedback on their wines. And Wine Australia do feedback that information and give you some idea as to what the level of interest has been in those wines. So that's another one I forgot about. Sorry, Jennifer. I'll go back to, now that it's 11, I promised this would be from 10 to 11. So it's 11 o'clock now, but I'm very happy to stay on if there are any further questions. And at any time, if anyone wants to reach out to me, my contact details are on the website. Most of you already have them. If you've got any sort of one-to-one type questions, if you don't want to ask them in an open forum, I'm happy for you to do so. So if there's no more questions, I'll stop the recording and we'll say goodbye. Thanks for attending, everybody.
Thanks, Liz.